you from coming to you from an unknown location, at the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, bringing you the unknown. Welcome to another spine-tingling episode of Paranormal 411. Your hosts are David Reagan and Jason Scott, and together, they dive headfirst into the mysteries that lurk just beyond our understanding, featuring notable experts ready to share their insights into the world of the strange and unknown. So pull up a chair, pour a cup of something warm, and prepare to be enthralled. Here at Paranormal 411, we're not just a radio show, we're a community of truth seekers, adventurers of the mind, exploring the boundaries of the known and unknown. We invite you to join us, to share your thoughts, your experiences, your questions. Whether you've had your own encounter with the supernatural or you're simply intrigued by the inexplicable, we want to hear from you. So, don't be shy. Drop a comment and let's unravel the mysteries of the universe together. Buckle up as we journey beyond the veil of the ordinary, into the heart of the extraordinary. This is Paranormal 411, where the inexplicable meets reality and imagination takes flight. Stay tuned and remember, in the world of the paranormal, nothing is as it seems.
All right.
All
Welcome,
right.
everybody,
Welcome.
to Paranormal 411. Got a great show tonight. We got Christian over here,
Yeah, Christian in the
good
house.
friend of
tonight.
ours with
Yeah.
Raven Productions. And we're going to,
And what is it in Mexico?
Is the Nahuales taller.
Nahuales Taller
oh, okay.
in
He-
Mexico.
They make all of our shirts and things and
Yes.
Stickers,
stickers, everything.
whatever you think.
What's the website?
It's Ravens Productions. We have only right now the Facebook,
Facebook.
Instagram, and TikTok.
So it's Raven Productions
Yeah,
on
Raven
Instagram,
Productions.
Facebook, and TikTok.
Yes, of
Awesome.
You need a shirt, sticker, about anything.
Hey,
course.
Look them up.
Look. This is it.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of them
Yeah.
right here.
Now, also, we got Justin Decker.
Oh,
He's going to be coming
yes.
on here in a minute and talking to us about some cryptids and his cryptid research. Always
Absolutely.
good to talk to Justin.
Yes. Yeah, I love talking to Justin. He's a good friend. And also remember, we are live on Spreaker, Podbean, X. We're also on paranormal411.org, Facebook, and YouTube. Remember, we do have a book, East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore, but we're about to actually have
A bigger book.
the bigger book. It's the East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore version 2, right? It's a
Edition 2.
Edition 2, second edition is what it is. And so this will be coming out probably, hopefully we're in the 4th edition of going through this book now. So it's funny how you keep finding things wrong with them, but you miss periods and all kinds of stuff. But we've got one more person looking at it and stuff like that. So
Yeah, one more person, and then we're good.
yes, and we're going to keep everybody informed on that. So, and if you're looking to find us, you can do that at paranormal411.org, paranormal411 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Also on Saturday nights and Sunday nights, 10 p.m. to 11, we're on WDJY FM. You could go to WDJYFM.com and listen to us. If you're in the metro Atlanta area, it is 99.1 FM. If you're not, of course, you could also go to WDJY FM, or you could go to Paranormal 411, click on the link, listen to us. We're also on Subspace Radio and all of your favorite podcast platforms.
Hell yeah.
Join us. We're also on a radio station in Denver,
Colorado.
and we're on a TV station in California.
Yeah.
We're on a TV station in California.
Oh,
So we're slowly but surely getting a little bit bigger, I guess.
Little bit.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
It all started from fun.
And it still is, right?
Yeah.
It still is.
Wouldn't do it if it wasn't fun.
Yeah, right.
So tonight we got Justin Decker. He's known for his extensive study of mysterious creatures. He was raised in the Amazon jungle in Colombia.
Yes.
Yeah, South America, that is.
Yeah.
His close connection to the land and keen observational nature instilled within him a deep understanding of the wild. Justin's research into the unknown, particularly with cryptids, has been a lifelong passion. He has read over 1,000 Bigfoot reports and looks for common threads in cryptic behavior, such as patterns and details. His articulate storytelling was good. I love to hear him talk.
Yes.
And intelligence in cryptozoology make him a very sought after guest on podcast. We're glad to have him here on Paranormal 411.
Glad to call him a friend more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His motto is, I hope I pronounce it right, Vivamus Ferox. Did I say that right?
I think so. Yeah.
He can tell you it's Latin for live fierce, and it's his brand, and he'll tell you all about that.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and bring him on.
Let's bring Justin.
Let's bring Justin on the stage.
Come on, Justin, what's up?
What's
How you
up,
doing,
Justin?
Hey, what's up,
Good
guys?
to
How y'all
see you.
doing tonight?
Hey, good.
Good.
How about you?
Doing all right. It's great to be back with you guys.
Yes.
Man,
Glad to have you here.
that intro makes me sound very interesting. I don't know.
You are. You're interesting.
I must have a great PR person, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I AI'd that myself.
how many people could say that they lived with uncontacted tribes in the rainforest? You know,
Not very many.
Or how this grew up with that's even better, right? Being a kid and growing up with uncontacted tribes.
Raised with. I know there was one other person my age out there with me, and then my older siblings, and then her older siblings. So there was a handful of us our age that weren't the actual adult missionaries out there. But I mean, you're talking, less than 10 people, and all together as our group, less than 20 people were out there living with and experiencing life out there with these natives.
Wow. That's amazing.
Is that what got you interested in all this, or just?
Well, it led into it because I was raised with the idea that there are monsters out there in the dark. There are things unknown,
right? And
not to be scared or afraid, but to just respect that and to be aware. You know what I mean? And so growing up, I always had a love for the outdoors. Like I was outside, always playing. When I was out in the jungle, I had some Indian friends. I still call them Indians because that's how I was raised with them. I know that's not necessarily PC anymore, but it is what it is.
Right.
Right. So, I was out there with them all day long, playing, hunting, fishing, building, and just lived my entire life outdoors. That's basically what I did until I came to the States when I was about 10. And even then, we moved out to rural Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And when I wasn't in school and doing my stuff, I was out in the woods. So I've always had a lifelong love for nature in the woods. And when I first saw, a Bigfoot film or Bigfoot documentary, I didn't go, "Oh, that's not possible." My idea was, well, that actually makes kind of sense.
Right.
So it's like I tell people, I never did not believe. Right. I was never at a point where I was going, "No, I don't believe in Bigfoot." I never had. But the moment I heard about him, I was kind of like, "Oh, well, I can see that."
Yeah. Right.
Hey, Jennifer. Got Jennifer in the chat thing here. Got Roger. We got Bird Dog.
Jennifer's that PR person I was talking about.
Right. That's right. She wrote that awesome PR, didn't she?
Yep.
But no, I mean, I was the same way though with when it comes to a lot of these cryptids. I won't say all, because some I do have a problem with, because I'm just like, where does it fit in, somewhere? And some of these don't. But the more I get into some of these that don't quite fit, then I start looking at other explanations possibly, right? So you can be on the fence on that. But, Bigfoot, I'm like, okay, we know Gigantopithecus existed. And a lot of these, you know, offshoots and throughout history that they know for a fact that there has usually been 4 or 5 human type, you know, people around at all times, right? So whether it was us or, you know, Neanderthal and so on and so forth, there's usually been so many
Mhm.
at all times. So, you know, to have another one around still, I don't think is a far-fetched thing to think.
Not at all. And what really kind of, I guess, solidified my interest was after I started looking into it, I naturally went to my dad and started asking him
Mhm.
about stuff because he was raised in the woods in upper Michigan and then obviously spending time in the jungles and stuff. And come to find out, he had his own sightings in the jungle of something that we would classify as a cryptid. And then the native tribe that we lived with down there, they had a legend of what would be a Bigfoot creature as well. And that really just kind of solidified into my conscience that these things are there, whether we understand them or not. I mean, the tribe that I lived with, we were the only white people that they had ever been really contacted with, you know. Their language was unknown. That was what my dad was doing, was out there deciphering their language from scratch.
Wow.
And so there's no chance of cultural pollution with these guys, right? It's not
Mhm.
like they heard a story from some Colombians or something like that. This is their own thing because they couldn't even speak with anybody else around them.
Yeah.
There's no possible way of contamination. And they tell of a creature that they called Nimitz. And he would come out at night. And if he caught an Indian away from the safety of the campfire, and like, I'm not going to say village, they lived all in one big hut called the Maloka. If they caught you away from there, they would kill you and drain your blood.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Well,
they
very
were described as being man sized, covered in hair with arms that hung down past their knees. And they walked on 2 legs. They were upright. They were completely uh, distinguished as a separate animal than the monkeys. They were completely different. And during the day, it was said that he would sleep in like hollowed out trees. He would climb up into a tree where there was a hollow, and that's where he would sleep. And at night, he would come out.
huh.
And that was, I mean, that's the extent that we could understand once we learned their language. I'm sure there's more to the story than that. There's probably sightings and a history of them, but that would take a more of a comprehension of the language, you know.
Right.
And so when you realize that, I mean, these people that I lived with in the middle of the Amazon have their own, essentially a Bigfoot story. How can you sit here and say that it's just our imagination,
Right.
you know?
Exactly.
And it tracks. I mean, because as you research this, if you look at it on a global scale, I mean, Australia, India, China, Japan, all these different places, you know, Russia, Siberia, all over Europe, they all have some form of a Bigfoot creature.
Mhm.
And for people to just dismiss that and just say, oh, it's just, you know, cultural contamination and all this kind of stuff, it's just ludicrous. They're intentionally not looking at evidence, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Oh, you know, and then you've got not only the evidence that has been collected, right, with footprint cast and even hand cast. I've got one over here that's
Hmm.
from Kentucky, you know, sitting right over here. And then the DNA stuff that they've done and all the other things that they've done. But you have so many eyewitnesses, right?
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
just so many. And then you start researching and you look throughout time and you have, you know, 1800s, 1700s, you know, and
Hmm.
then back into the native history here
Hmm.
in the Americas, all the way from Canada and Alaska, all the way down into Mexico and stuff. You
Yeah.
have these native tales about this creature.
Yeah.
So supposedly these people weren't all talking to each other, right? That's what
Exactly.
they want anyway. So how did they come up with the same creature then?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. And if you look at it from a biological standpoint, they're not all the same. It makes
Yes.
sense, right? Different regions, there's different types, but they're consistent within their region.
Yes.
Yeah, they all show some of the same basic features, like the Chinese Yeren
Mhm.
is always kind of described kind of the same way.
Yep.
The Yowie, there's actually two in Australia. One's called the Yowie, and I can't pronounce the other one, so I'm not even going to try. There's
Mhm.
two different types of creatures
You
down
got
in
the big
Australia.
one and the small one. Yeah.
Right, exactly. There you go. Big one and a little one. That's
Big
how
one
I
and the
see it.
little one. Yep. Yep.
And
And they talk the big one is mean too, is what they say. So
right. Yeah, the big one is not one you want to run into.
right.
And
Like
so
the
I mean,
Alaska ones. They're the same way.
yep. Well, I mean, if you were living up north in the cold like that, I'd get kind of ornery too.
I'd be
Um,
honored.
They actually say the ones in the Texarkana area, Louisiana, Texas, the whole swamp, big thicket area, they seem to be the most temperamental and angry ones as far as the reports
Really?
go.
Wow.
Yeah, those ones down there seem to be more aggressive. That they're more likely to initiate aggressive behavior, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Huh.
And in
That's
fact, I'm looking at writing a book, kind of putting stuff together, and it's based on a presentation I did last year in Pennsylvania, which is why do I believe in Bigfoot if I've never seen one?
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of that is the historical context.
Yeah.
The first reported footprints in the Americas was in 1811, so we're talking hundreds of years, and this is by an explorer up there.
Mm-hmm.
Up in I want to say British Columbia, I think it was in 1811. And so this isn't just a new trend. There's the detractors that want to say, oh, this just started in the 60s in California. Well, obviously you don't know what you're talking about if that's what you're going to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, those are the same people that say that the Patterson Gimlin film is fake too. So
Yeah. It's been proven that one guy came out and said it was him, right? So obviously that solves it.
And boy, that costume that he had looked really, really. I mean, it was right on. So
Yeah.
Spot on.
Yeah,
Spot on.
I can't understand.
breasts and all. I mean, it looked just
Mhm.
like
you got these people that say there's no evidence, but there's plenty of evidence, scientific evidence
Yes.
that this thing exists.
Yes.
Well,
And-
one of the things in my research I focus on
Sierra
is
sounds. I mean, come on.
the Sierra sounds of the raw. Yeah. One of the things I have found is people want to use a word and not know what it means.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They'll say there's no evidence, and then you lay out all the evidence. They go, well, yeah, but that doesn't prove anything. And I go, oh, you're looking for proof.
Proof, not
Okay.
evidence. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So what? And then you have to ask them though, what constitutes proof to you?
Right. Yeah. You'd think
Right.
evidence would be enough proof, but you
You would
hey,
think that, I mean, preponderance of evidence in a court of law kind of goes a long way, right?
absolutely. Yeah. You get DNA and everything else in a court of law, and you could convict somebody. So I mean,
At the very least, there's enough evidence currently to say there is definitely something out there that we can't classify.
right. Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, we can say that with confidence. Now, we can't say what a Bigfoot is,
No.
right? Or if we don't even want to call it a Bigfoot, if we want to call it a Sasquatch or whatever, I don't really care.
Right.
But there is enough definitive scientific evidence to prove there is something out there that we currently don't know what it is or understand.
Right.
And
Well,
I
I mean-
operate all my research based on that idea that I'm not trying to prove that it exists. At this point, I know it exists. And so everything I study beyond that is more, okay, if it exists, what's it going to look like? What's it's going to be behaviors? What are we looking at?
Right. And that's, I think that's what a lot of these detractors are. Well, you can't just, bring one up. You
Mhm.
can't just walk up and say, hey, they're living over here. But, that shows intelligence, I think, because
Mhm.
they know to stay away. They know, they understand, do not go around these people.
Sure.
I like what Jennifer says, wood booger. Yeah.
Wood boogers. Yep. Up in her neck of the woods, wood boogers.
Yeah. Whistle jacks is another.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of names for them, especially here in the South, like that.
Oh yeah.
Old man of the woods, all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What
So-
go ahead. No,
I
go
was
ahead.
just going to ask him what he tells the skeptics when they say stuff like that. What do you tell them?
Well, the first thing I ask them is how much research have they done? That's my very first question, because you'll get, how come a body's never been found? And I go, oh, how much have you looked into that? Oh, well, no, if there was, we would have seen it all over the news. And I go, really? You think you would? I mean, maybe, but like I can tell you about 4 or 5 stories of people finding Bigfoot out in the woods or being hit by the car and all this kind of stuff. I said, so if you can't tell me that you've actually looked into something, then you can't tell me that something has never happened.
Right.
And then that's where me having started reading reports when I was about 12 years old and just constantly reading. I'm a nerd at heart. I just love to read. I devour books and stuff like that. So I would get on at night and go to the BFRO database, the website, and just read report after report after report. And then I'd find other groups online as they became more available and just read report after report after report, and you'll find reports. Any question that somebody has ever really asked, somewhere along the line, I have probably come across the report about it.
Wow.
Not every now and then I get a question and I'll go, wow, I've actually never heard of that before. That's a good one. Let me look into that. Like the wood knocking thing. Everybody says, how do we know they're actually wood knocking? We nobody's ever seen it. And I said, are you sure about that? Because I've read reports of a hunter out Montana, I think it was elk hunting. And through the story, he discovered something was there, and then he actually saw one knocking on a tree with a branch.
Right.
And that's not to say that every time you hear that sound, that's what they're doing. I believe they have multiple functions for making that sound.
Yep. I think you can vocalize it too.
I think they can vocalize it. I think they can clap their hands like that. I think, that they can smack their chest.
I mean, I can hit exactly. I can hit some really high notes like that myself. And when you're out in a quiet place, I could ring someone's ears just by.
Oh yeah.
And it sounds like a tree knock.
Exactly.
But
like a wood booger.
And, but I just think that it again, that shows intelligence, right? Because they're communicating something, whatever it is. We don't know what that is, but they're communicating. And it's like when they clack rocks together, they know that they could hear like rocks clacking,
Sure. Even beyond just the fact that they're communicating, they're being opportunistic on how they're communicating. They're using what's available to them.
Yeah.
Which means they know that if this will make a sound, this will make a sound. If I do this, it'll make a sound. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that's a little bit deeper even than just saying, like a howler monkey's going to howl. And that's what they do. But you don't ever see a howler monkey pick up a big branch because his voice is sore and he can't howl today. And so he smacks it against a tree. You don't have that kind of thinking. You know what I mean?
I think it's a difference too between like the Sierra sounds, you could hear them literally conversating, right?
Right.
Where they're really close into each other and they're actually having a conversation. And then wood knocks and stuff like that. That's their AT&T. They're reaching out and touching someone. They're someone's across the holler over there and they're telling them, hey, something, whatever it is, but they're communicating in long distances that way, I think.
Exactly. Our natives had a very specific call that they would use in the jungle. And my family would still uses it to this day. Like if we can't see each other and we want to get somebody else's attention, we'll make this specific call because it can be heard through the trees and through the foliage. Is how they kept in touch when they were like hunting or traveling. They weren't all right up against each other. They're spread out, many yards through the jungle.
Yeah.
And the jungle is so dense, you can't see each other. You could be 5 feet away and you couldn't see a person.
Yeah.
Right. But they would use a specific call and it wasn't anything other than a sound. It didn't really have any meaning other than, hey, I'm here. And the other person would call back saying, "Oh, I'm over here," and then they would kind of keep going back and forth to coordinate locations. And I think that that's a lot of what Bigfoot is doing when they're doing those kinds of calls. They're just kind of communicating back and forth. Now, is there an alarm factor to it? Do they only do it when a person's around? Well, we don't know, obviously, because we can only hear it when we're around. So we don't know if they do it that much when we're not around,
Yeah.
But it just, again, everything about them makes sense as a biological entity.
Wow.
It just,
John says that in the 80s, his family heard one in the woods. You want to put this up, Jason?
Yeah, I'll put it up there.
They lived in Roane County, so he could see it. He walked heavily. It's hard to explain. Yeah, and that's the thing that a lot of people talk about is that they could hear them walking, that they're so heavy-footed that I guess when they want to be, though, because they could also be quiet at the same time. So it's a crazy thing. It's like when they want to be noticed, they can make themselves noticed, but when they don't want to be noticed, they could step up behind you and tap you on the shoulder, and you wouldn't even know they were there.
I mean, you wouldn't even know they were there. Yep.
Yeah. And that's something that we talked with some other people before and stuff, as far as like a lot of people are too busy looking down, but no one's ever looking up in the trees.
Sure.
I think that they use that as a way of getting around too.
Oh, I mean, it just makes sense that they're, we're so used to living in just a flat environment because we can't really maneuver anyway, but forward and backward. You know what I mean? But these guys have the capability of all different levels. Yeah. And there'd be no reason why one wouldn't just walk along and grab a tree branch and hoist himself up and keep going through the trees, assuming the canopy is correct and the trees are right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, they get the reports of them being on the ground, army style, with the spider crawl and different things. They're well aware of how vision works and how not to be seen. Everybody always wants to look in this plane because as humans, that's the only plane we operate in.
Yep.
But like if you look into military techniques on camouflage and how not to be seen, the biggest thing is to get out of the field of view.
Right.
Drop to the ground, lay flat. You don't have to get behind something huge, just enough to kind of break up your silhouette. Unless you're a trained observer, you're never going to see them. And I think these guys can do the same thing. They have the same understanding of how that works.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just ingrained in them, I mean, they grew up in those environments and that's what they're taught, right? I mean,
exactly.
They understand it.
Yeah.
When you can, don't walk on the ground, walk on dead trees that are falling.
Also,
up in the canopy.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about cloaked, but it's a possibility.
Sure.
Just like a chameleon can change colors to match its environment. Why couldn't that?
Well, I mean, I use it as an example all the time, but we live way out here in the boondocks like you do, Jason. And I'll walk out on my top porch and I'll look out and there'll be deer, just eating in the yard right here. Watch them. When they notice you, they'll run up, kind of trot, really, not even run, but they'll kind of go up to the woods. As soon as they hit that wood line, you're watching these dang things. They so blend in with everything that as soon as they hit that wood line, they almost disappear.
Yeah.
Because they're so camouflaged. It's crazy. And until you start seeing that tail flicking, then you like, oh, there it is. It's right over there, and so it could be a lot of stuff like that too.
Sure. I think now I'm not one of these researchers that throws out reports because I don't understand them or I don't agree with them. Right. And so we do get these reports that have some very fantastical qualities, but the people are still credible.
Yes.
And so I have two options. Either I believe them or I look them in the face and tell them they're a liar.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But again, it boils down to when you start hearing the same stuff over and over again, and not just like, oh, we saw this on TV, so now it's kind of the fad thing to say. Right. Because I've come across some stuff like that.
Right.
But when you find reports from the 60s and 70s that talk about some of the same behavior and some of these same things, then you have to kind of give it a little more credibility.
Well, Ron Moorhead, that's what he talks about.
Yeah.
Sierra Sounds. He talks big time about the fact of he believes that they're interdimensional creatures and that they can come in and out of this plane of existence and he has his reasoning for it. And you know what? He's been doing this for a long time, and I tend to believe him, But then if you've watched the last couple of seasons of Expedition Bigfoot, holy smokes, man. Have you watched them? Oh
I try not to watch the TV shows that much. I mean, I know them. I know the guys. I'm really good friends with Myra. Well, we've talked several times at the conferences and stuff.
Yeah.
And I got Jennifer, my fiance, to able to sit and interview him and stuff because we were up at Lexington last year at the Cryptid Con, and we did some interviews and stuff like that with Cliff and with Mariah and with Russell and all these guys. I just try not to watch the show because for me, there's not a lot of research that goes on in them. Like I'll watch them. Like I'm just now watching Expedition X with Josh Gates because I know most of that stuff is so old. It's not really going to corrupt me and any of my stuff at all. And it's enjoyable. I have fun with it,
Yeah.
Like I just saw an episode where they were up in Appalachia in my area looking for feral humans.
Yes. I remember that.
It was, right. It was fun because they had my buddies Mark and Digger on there. I thought that was pretty cool. And I never knew Mark and Digger was on that one, so that was fun. And then they actually were talking to a researcher by the name of Eric Taylor. And I want to find this guy because apparently he's the go-to man when it comes to feral human sightings in Appalachia. And that's an area I've been really wanting to get into, but I'm having a hard time finding good reports.
Right. Yeah.
And good information, So Eric Taylor, if you're listening, hit me up.
What's that email? What's that email he needs to hit?
Oh, just justindecker81@gmail.com. It's simple as that. I messaged you on Reddit, so I'm that same guy. But yeah, I try not to watch a lot of them just because I don't want, again, it's the fad stuff, you know what I mean? And I try and keep it to the regular reports and not some of the crazy stuff. And I enjoy watching them. I like talking to them. I enjoy watching their presentations at conferences and stuff. Yeah. I got one of Myra's book, but it's all about her anthropological work with over in Africa and stuff. So I got that book on there.
Yeah, we've got that one.
Yeah. But again, the hard part I have with a lot of those is they're made for TV. They're produced. They have to show certain things. They have to not show certain things. And I get it. It's made for TV.
Right.
I understand how that works.
The one thing I do appreciate about their show, and maybe you'll watch it. I don't even know. They haven't even said that they might have a 5th season yet or not.
Right.
They haven't even announced it. But the 3rd season, they had something just fantastic happen. And they weren't there this last year at the Bigfoot conference, where it was the year before last, wasn't it, Jason?
I think so.
Yeah. With Dr. Jeff Meldrum was there. So
that was a couple of years ago. That's why last time I saw you guys in person. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I thought. It was 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, she's up there talking about that 3rd season. And Meldrum looks at her and is like, excuse me, say that again? Because at one point they're filming and a shadow walks in front of the camera, but there's nothing there. Something literally goes between them and the cameraman and creates a shadow on the wall, humanoid, but there's nothing there.
And if I remember correctly, there's no place for something to be, right? Because wasn't it like across like a river up on the canyon wall kind of a thing?
Yes, exactly. And so this thing literally had to be like walking almost in the water even. And she couldn't understand it, but the evidence is there that something happened.
Right.
Well, something even more spectacular happened on the 4th season. They go and bring in one of those robot dogs that's
Mhm.
got the LiDAR on it, right?
Yep.
So this thing's got LiDAR on it. They go through this, it's an abandoned, it's not a cave though, it's
I
a
think
mine, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a mine. And so they're going through this abandoned mine, and this thing's LiDARing, but it's also got a live cam on the top of it. It gets so far back, and the guy's like, look, there's some fallen timbers. I don't want to get my dog further back because I don't want it, something to fall, kill,
Right.
destroy the dog. I'm sure they cost a lot of money. And so when they started going through the evidence of that on the LiDAR in the back of this cave where they stopped the dog, it's really weird, where they stopped the robotic dog, you see sitting on a rock with its back turned, and it's sitting like this.
No way.
You could see a head, you could see the arm, you could see the back.
Wow.
On the camera, you saw nothing. You saw the rock and the back of the wall. But the LiDAR actually mapped that thing sitting there.
Map that figure. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And what was fantastic about it is when they went in to investigate, it's just him and his cameraman.
Mhm.
And they hear a rock or something get thrown. Well, they go to investigate that area, and the cameraman turns, and you see, just like in what is that movie with Arnold?
Predators.
Predator. You see, just like that, this figure go right by in like 2 or 3 frames, right by them. So like he had them go one way so he could go the other way behind them.
Mhm.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I don't know. It was crazy. It really was.
Absolutely. And then again, those are the reports that we're getting. We're hearing these Glimmerman effect, as some people call them, or the predator thing.
Yes.
And I've done a lot of research into that, and I've actually over the years have kind of developed a theory based on frequency and vibrations and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not presenting it as fact. I'm thinking it's something that we need to scientifically examine to see if it's viable or not.
Right.
Is we know that we can only see in certain frequencies,
Yes.
right?
small, right?
Visually.
Yeah.
So is there the possibility that these things are able to somehow regulate frequencies from our field that we can see up and out of the range that we can't see?
Mhm.
Whether it's an instinctual thing, whether it's kind of like a flight or fight response, is it an
Mhm.
automatic thing that happens, or is it something that they can control, or
Right.
something like that? But I think we have to look at what we're seeing
Mhm.
and try and understand that instead of just going, "Oh, that's not possible," because scientifically it is possible.
It is, yeah. And what kills me is that if you listen to a lot of the native
Mhm.
peoples, they talk about this creature walking in both worlds, right? So
Yeah,
it walks in
exactly.
the spirit world and it walks in this world. Well, would that not explain that? If you saw
Absolutely.
something that looked like it materialized or dematerialized in front of you, right? It just disappeared, right?
Mhm.
You would think the same thing.
Sure.
I mean,
Exactly.
so I think that's where people get these portals and all these other
I
things. And
agree.
yeah.
It's what I call and what I've coined the electric eel effect.
Yes.
Okay. The electric eel effect. So basically, the electric eel was discovered and described just about the same time electricity was. And in fact, scientists in the late 1700s studying the electric eel is how they learned how to make capacitors and batteries and kind of discovered how this all worked. Okay. They went hand in hand in the late 1700s. But what if 100 years before that you came across an electric eel? How
Yeah.
would you describe that creature? How would you describe what it does? How would you describe that feeling for when you reached down and picked it up out of the water? How would you describe that? Because you don't have a word for shock.
Right.
You have absolutely no comprehension of what electricity is,
Yeah.
or magnetic fields, or any of this stuff. It's not even you don't understand it. You have no comprehension. There's no words for it yet.
Yep.
How would you describe what they do and how they do it? You would not be able to. It would be magic. It would be mysterious. It would be
Yeah.
spiritual. It would be psychic. It would be all these different things. and they would all be wrong. Now you're still seeing what's the reality of what's happening. You just can't describe it. And I really feel with a lot of cryptids and with like the cloaking with Bigfoot and the eye glow and all this kind of stuff, I think that's what we're experiencing is just science that we don't understand yet. It's not something we can describe yet.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it any less real. It just
Right.
means we don't have those words yet. And we're doing the best that we can to kind of quantify that.
Yep. That makes sense to me.
Yep.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense to me. I think the same thing with like what Jason said, you know, the chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you didn't understand it, that's definitely magic, right? This little creature that could change its colors and
look at the octopus, man. The
right.
octopus.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It changes color, it changes texture, it changes shapes, it does the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's very smart too. It's an intelligent creature.
It's not observed in mammals, but that doesn't mean they don't have other ways of doing that. And we just haven't described that yet, you know?
Right. I have either listened to or watched something somewhere, but these people talk to a doctor, and I don't remember what his PhD was in, but it was something because of what they talked to him about. They talked to him about the fact that can an animal somehow cloak itself, right? Mm-hmm. And he kind of described it. It was kind of neat. He said that if they had this ability, kind of like what you said, Justin, a minute ago, whether it's inherent in them, they know what they're doing, or it's just a fight or flight response or whatever it is. If they had their fur or their hair was different one way or another, and depending on what they wanted, they could lay it, they could actually move it and make it do whatever they wanted it to do. Sure. They could literally right in front of you completely disappear.
Yeah. Sure. Absolutely.
So he says it's not out of the realm of ordinary.
No. I mean, would it be unusual? Absolutely. But it's not unheard of. It's not impossible to change, you know. I mean, look at us when we get goosebumps.
Right.
That is literally an involuntary action controlling the muscles at the base of our hair follicles.
Right.
And look at your cat who can do it when it wants to. Or your dog who wants to raise the hair on the back of its neck. You know what I mean? So it's not without precedence. Right. It's just done in a different way and utilized differently, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I know you don't just research Bigfoot, you do a lot of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dog.
Yeah. Dogman's a fun one. I'm a 14 researcher. I tell people I'm into anything and everything weird, strange, or unusual. It doesn't have to just be monsters, as I call them. You know, like anything that's out of the ordinary. I really get into and I kind of dig. And in my own podcast, we go over all kinds of stuff from random stuff falling from the sky to vibrational portals to like all kinds of stuff. Just kind of explore the possibilities of it. You know. And Dogman is one of these ones where at the beginning I was kind of going, yeah, okay, somebody's just trying to one up Bigfoot, you know. But again, when I started getting into the research of it, you start realizing that there's a history, just like with Bigfoot, right? So I kind of developed myself a checklist, and it has to do historical sightings, modern sightings, continuity of sightings, regional sightings, and physical evidences, right? And if I can check off almost all of those boxes, then I have to admit to myself there could be something to it. And Bigfoot checks off all those boxes for me. And Dogman checks off all those boxes for me. So if I said I don't believe in Dogman, but I believe in Bigfoot, I'd just be a hypocrite, really.
Right.
You know? And so to me, one of the things with Dogman is just it's hard to research because all you're really getting right now is the stories, the reports, and evidence, but we don't know what to do with the evidence. We haven't really been able to classify it and study it very well yet, right? Like there's people that are claiming Dogman foot tracks.
Okay.
but we still haven't been able to quantify them. What makes it a dogman track versus not a dogman track? Because we're still getting, at least I get, a variety of descriptions, right? Where Bigfoot, we kind of know, and we've had enough studies done where, I mean, there's a ratio that we look for in length to width. I mean, there's certain characteristics that we look for, most of that thanks to Dr. Meldrum. But we don't have that with dogman prints yet. You know what I mean? And so we're still getting the evidence from that. But I think the difference with dogman is it's almost a purely internet thing nowadays, and everything is spreading, and it's just hard to keep it, I don't want to say under control, but it's kind of hard to keep the research under control and pure without all the speculation and legends and all this other stuff getting mixed in to the pure research, as I like to call it. You know, one of the things that I've been working on slowly is investigating supposed dogman attacks. And I know we were talking about that a little bit, and I've got one case that I fully researched in and out, and I've come to my conclusions there. And I have another case that I'm just starting to kind of research, and I've been to the locations, and right now I'm trying to get police reports, but for some reason they're not being very forthcoming with the information. The first time I put in a request, and this is in Kentucky, the first time I put in a request, I never heard back. And then when we looked into it, they somehow had a website maintenance issue and lost my request. So then we had to put it again, right?
Yeah, that's convenient, isn't it?
Classic. Classic. But the first ones I dug into was the Cott County cases in Cott County, Tennessee, which is just a few miles away from where I was living up there. And Jennifer, my fiance, and I, we actually took a trip down there one night and did a Facebook Live on the road. And that was kind of my first foray into it. But then people started really getting into it. And so I did some research, and I pulled autopsy reports on both of the victims, and I reached out and I talked to family and friends of the victims and read what little I could get from the police, because they considered an open case still. And with it being an open case, you're not going to get any information out of them.
Right.
I contacted
the homicide.
They're just considering it unknown.
Gotcha.
Still under investigation.
Gotcha.
The autopsy reports indicate that they were animal attacks. But that's as far as the official police thing goes. And like I said, they're keeping it as an open case. And I believe that's so they don't have to give out any information on it. But in doing that and looking at the reports, and I got the autopsy reports, and I called in somebody I knew that was a deputy coroner to kind of go over the reports with me. And I called in somebody who was an ER trauma nurse, and they went over the reports with me, right? So it's not just me looking at this stuff. I've got trained professionals that are familiar with medical cases and how to read medical reports and stuff. And we went over it. And the basic conclusion was that these two people were unfortunately killed by a pack of dogs. There is no other evidence indicating anything else, and I've had people get mad at me about it and tell me it was a dog man. And I just simply say, show me some evidence, show me something anywhere in the documentation that calls into question what I'm saying.
Right.
Like I don't even ask for anything to prove it was a dog man, because you're never going to prove it. But give me something that is unexplainable that calls into question what we're talking about here. And I haven't had anybody actually come across and give me any documentation or any evidence of anything else. That being said, I do believe that Dogman is out there. And if Dogman's out there, he's not going to be very friendly to people.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that we are going to run across them, and there are going to be some kind of attacks. There are going to be casualties. I mean, that just makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think what we need to do as researchers in the field is kind of wade through all these different attacks and see what we can find out, so we can focus in on the cases that are more suspicious, or the ones that may actually be you know, a result of one of these attacks. And we need to be able to get away from the ones that aren't, because they're just going to cloud the waters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for you, Jason.
What are you waiting? What are you waiting
You got a
for?
question. We have a question here too.
Oh yeah.
Somebody.
This is from John.
Yep.
What's your all's thoughts on the recent video going around of Sasquatch throwing the downed trees at a crime scene? So
You guys know the one he's talking about?
No, I don't think I've seen that.
Okay. John, I know which one you're talking about. I didn't look into it personally, but a very good friend of mine and fellow researcher, Daniel Benoit, tracked down the source of the video, and the original source of the video is a guy who's a known hoaxer, and he's known for coming up with different videos like that. And unfortunately, just because of that fact alone, we kind of have to throw it out.
Right.
And we can't really do much with it. Yep. So.
Yeah.
But it was a good video to watch at first, but once you start breaking it down and like I said, doing the research on it.
See, I've never watched the video. I haven't seen it. Is it on like Facebook?
All
YouTube?
Over Facebook. Yeah. Yeah. Facebook. Yeah. And the reason it says it's a crime scene is because there's actually yellow caution tape going across. And then you see this big hulking figure kind of behind the tree, half hidden, and he throws something.
I have to go look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
I think Susan, she had a dogman experience, didn't she?
She did, yes.
Yeah, I can't remember. You probably know it better than me.
I just remember, and she could probably call in and probably tell us better, but it was something. She was with her dad and going on an old back country road back to their house or something like that, and one vehicle was coming towards them, and I think said that it flashed their lights or something at them, and as they passed, there was this just big, she says it was a dog man, and he was chasing that truck. And her dad used some expletives, I think, and they kept going. And she told Eddie, and Eddie's like, why does all the good stuff happen when I'm not around? But she said it was pretty scary. She said the thing was big and it had red glowing eyes.
Red glowing eyes.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, it was on all fours when it was chasing the vehicle. It was not bipedal. It was on all fours when it was running after the truck. Yeah. So that's it. It was very interesting to me because I've always been on the fence on this dogman thing. I've never really totally, but when she told me the story, I was like, here's someone that I trust, and she's not telling me, going to tell me a lie for something like this. And so I find the dog man itself interesting.
Yeah.
Because you have, like, in the Bayou country and stuff, you have the Rougarou, which is their dog man and stuff. And I don't know. I mean, where do you put this creature when it comes to, like Bigfoot? We could kind of say, he could kind of belong here because there's upright hominids on this planet. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm an upright, and there has been for hundreds of thousands of years.
Right.
And so, but nowhere can we see that there has been any type of upright dog man, right?
Right.
Unless you want to go into
werewolf,
Egyptian lore too, because you had Paul and all these other, half human, half dog, and half bird, crane, and all these other people, alligator. I mean, if you want to go into there, you could say, yeah, this thing's been around for a long time, but this was a different creature than this one that's chasing people and trying to eat them.
Yeah.
You know?
So at this point, I have to basically go, there's different categorizations here.
Right.
I think Dogman has become a catch-all term.
Mhm.
And so we literally have to look at each case individually, right? Because we do have the old European lore of werewolves, and not
Mhm.
just European, but that's kind of where we get it from and what we believe is werewolves, which is basically the human form that is able to shift over to the wolf-like form. And
Right.
then you have the ones that supposedly become a wolf
Mhm.
in the traditional wolf sense, or you have the ones that come into this hybrid upright wolf creature that we think of when we think of Dogman.
Right.
We also have to look into the Native American lore when it comes to skinwalkers, which has completely become corrupted in
Yeah.
our social media age of what a skinwalker is or was.
Right.
And that irritates me to no end. We have to look at, like you were talking about, the stories of the Cynocephaly coming from the ancient explorers. Like,
Right.
there's some highly regarded ancient explorers that claim to have come across countries of these dog-headed creatures, or upright human dogs, and they describe them as having culture and being able to communicate and being able to conduct trade with them. And there's a story, I want to say somewhere in the east, whether it was China or India, where they actually had a military group made up of these dog creatures, right? And so again, there's historical context here, and they're described as different things. At this point, I have to go, if I'm talking to somebody, tell me what you mean when you say Dogman.
Right.
Right. What are you talking about? Because I have heard some very convincing stories from credible people talking about humans transforming into something else.
Mhm.
Is that going to be the same thing as, say, a Dogman creature that is naturally always a Dogman creature that doesn't transform, it doesn't have powers? Maybe it's just a straight biological entity.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so I think we have to understand that there may be more than one thing we're talking about here.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I have personally talked to Joe Barger. I don't know if you guys know who Joe Barger is. He was a trucker up in Michigan,
Mhm.
and he was traveling through the Manistee Forest up there. And basically, he had one of these Dogman creatures running along his semi truck, trying to open the door of the semi truck, the passenger door, as he's driving it. And he grabbed his trusty sidearm
Mhm.
and took out one of its eyes.
Wow.
And he was able to go down the road and turn around and come back and look for it, and it was gone. But it looked like something had dragged it off the side of the road. Now, I sat with this guy. Well, we stood outside of a restaurant. Actually, I was introduced to him at a pizza restaurant, and watched him tell his story, and watch the emotions and the expressions, and watch him basically relive this event as he's telling me this. There's no way I could look at this guy and tell him he's lying.
Right.
There's no way, because I could see the truth in what he was telling me.
Right.
Right. So would this be a werewolf creature? Well, I mean, it was in the middle of the woods somewhere. There's no reason for a werewolf to be out there if it's a human transforming into an animal,
Right.
and it wasn't a silver bullet or any, you know what I mean? So to me, it was the story of a straight up biological entity that he encountered.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I heard of a story of a kid who was with his mom, and they went to the shady neighborhood, to the shady house, to do some shady business. And there was some crazy dude sitting on a couch with this jar full of stuff, who rubbed it on his body. And then this kid, while his mom is dealing with this lady, is watching this guy starting to transform into something. And then
Really?
once once the other lady in the house is done doing her bit, or is doing the business, she sees what's happening. She shoos them out of the house, rushes them into their car, and they take off. And something bursts out of the house and starts chasing them. And it's described as a Dogman, as a werewolf. And
Wow.
again, I can't sit here and go to that person and say, hey, you're telling stories, you're fibbing, because I have no evidence of that. Yeah, it sounds fantastical to me, but in doing some research on it, the original guy that posted this story, he did some research on it, and he came across some legend and lore from old books about the devil having some kind of magic salve that he can give people to transform them. You know, so there's a historical context there. So yeah, these stories are fantastical and they're hard to believe, but if you're going to do serious research into a subject, unless you can have a reason to throw something out,
Right.
Sometimes you just have to kind of file it and put it in your I don't know box.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so when you come across the wide variety of the types of stories, you start looking at there has to be multiple entities that are all presenting as these dogman creatures.
Yeah.
I
That makes
think
sense.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
I kind of feel the same way with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, if it's all right, we take a quick break.
Yep.
Maybe we'll get into something like chupacabra or something like that. Christian might know a little something. I'd like to know.
A couple histories about it. That these ones are
Okay.
involved. He say in Mexico, the culture say when you're born with a one animal, and in the night you transform in that animal. But typically, it's a big dog, the big ones.
Yeah.
I never heard about that one. It's a history. But yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is.
Huh.
All right.
We're gonna take a quick break.
Quick break.
And we'll get into this because
Oh yeah,
it's getting good. It always does.
So we'll be back in a minute.
All right. Remember, we are live on Spreaker, Podbean, X, also at Paranormal 411, Facebook and YouTube. Remember, we do have a book out.
We do.
Search for it on Amazon, East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore. The next edition will be coming out soon. You could also find us at on Saturday nights, 10 p.m., which is tonight, right?
Yes.
It's actually Saturday and Sundays. I've got to try to keep remembering this because it's just recently we're on the radio 2 days now, Saturdays and Sundays. It's Saturday nights and Sunday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern time. WDJY FM if you're in the local Metro Atlanta area. That's 99.1 FM. And don't worry about it. If you're not in the Metro Atlanta area, you could still listen to us. It's WDJYFM.com. Or you could go to paranormal411.org and click that link and listen to us every Saturday and Sunday night. We're also on Subspace Radio and all of your favorite podcast platforms. Join us.
All right, we'll be back right after this.
What if the world we know is merely a fraction of reality? What if there are forces, entities, and phenomena that exist just beyond our comprehension in the shadows of the unknown? Welcome to Paranormal 411, your gateway to the unexplained and the downright chilling. Imagine, if you will, a quiet, sleepy town tucked away from the hustle and bustle of the city. The locals tell tales of a house atop a hill where strange lights flicker and eerie sounds echo in the dead of night. Some say it's haunted, others claim it's a portal to another realm. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain, those who venture there are never quite the same. Or picture this, a clear, starry night in the heart of the desert. Suddenly a blinding flash cuts across the sky, a craft of unknown origin moving at impossible speeds. It hovers, then vanishes, leaving only questions and a sense of awe. Could it be visitors from another world or perhaps a secret government project? These stories, these encounters with the unknown are what we love here at Paranormal 411. Our mission? To explore the unexplored, to question the unquestioned, and to shine a light into the darkest corners of the paranormal. We've journeyed through haunted houses and UFO sightings and into the mysteries of cryptids and psychic phenomena and pondered the existence of other dimensions. And yet, there is so much more to discover. Paranormal 411 is your guide to the unexplained and the extraordinary. Here we talk about the mysteries that lurk in the shadows of our world, from haunted houses and UFO sightings to cryptids and psychic phenomena. We love to question, to explore, and to understand the unknown. There's a world of mystery out there just waiting to be discovered. So why not join us on this journey into the unknown? Subscribe to our YouTube channel and become a part of the Paranormal 411 community. Together, we can uncover the secrets that the universe holds. Welcome to Paranormal 411. Your journey into the unknown starts here. Join us.
In the heart of Madisonville, Tennessee, lies a pizzeria like no other. Step through the door of Legends and Lore Pizzeria and be transported to a realm where paranormal and cryptid encounters, along with mouth-watering pizza, go hand in hand. Meet Eddie and his crew, who serve up slices of the supernatural along with the best pies in town. With the walls adorned with eerie artifacts, indulge in piping hot slices that melt in your mouth and tease your taste buds. And it's not just the locals who love the incredible pizza. Legends and Lore has been selected as the best pizza joint in all of Monroe County. As lovers of everything pizza and the paranormal, the owners have mastered the art of crafting unforgettable combinations that will leave you wanting more. To stay connected with this mystical eatery, follow Legends and Lore Pizzeria on Facebook, where tales of their latest creations and upcoming specials will be shared. Make sure to browse their custom menu, featuring legendary pizzas like the Chupacabra Ranch and the Exorcist. So, whether you have an appetite for the supernatural or simply seek the best pizza in town, Legends and Lore is the place to be. Come for the unforgettable flavors, stay for the captivating stories, and find yourself in a world where legends and pizza collide.
Get ready to rock with the electrifying sound of Catalyst, a band that's sure to leave you wanting more. With their powerful lyrics and killer riffs, Catalyst is a great sound in the world of rock music. You can listen and find Catalyst on Bandcamp, or go to the link at paranormal411.org and click on their banner.
All right, we're
All
back
right.
after that 6-minute break.
Yeah. Nice little break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got to go to the bathroom.
Woo. My balls are floating. It's time to go.
If you're just joining us, or you're listening on Sunday to the second part of this show, we got Justin Decker
That's right.
talking about cryptids. We got Christian setting in with Raven Productions. He does all our t-shirts, stickers.
Yeah.
You can find him on Facebook.
YouTube,
TikTok,
TikTok.
Instagram.
He's also got a good story to tell you, Justin, here in a second when we bring you back on.
He's back on.
Oh, what's up, Justin? I didn't know he's back on.
Hey.
We're all on.
What's up? He's got a good story. He told us during the break, and I was like, holy smokes. It's about the, what do you call them? Nahuales in Mexico. And it's kind of like werewolf, I guess.
Yes, it's the same one, kind of the same, but obviously in Mexico is like the part of the culture, you know. Everybody talk about it when we was a kid or whatever, right? Because the old people tell you, hey, you can't go to the outside in the night because you find in that people, and they say, what kind of people? Say the Nahuales. And everybody started freaking out because you know you are a kid and you don't want to stay in the night, you know.
Yeah.
And the old people say you can go because you can find in the big animals, the nahuales, and whatever that. And you know, like I say, it's part of the culture. You know, if you want to scare one kid, you can tell them, hey, the nahuales is go outside. You can't go outside. Or you can go over there forever, right?
Yeah.
Because scary, yeah. But behind, you know, but very, very old times, everybody say the history is when you born with one animal is your protector, like your
Spirit guide type
yeah,
thing.
exactly, yeah,
I think I've
But-
seen that in a movie.
yeah. But other people, you know, have a very strong. Um, some people when he sleep, he start to feeling like that animal, but without know what kind of animal you are, you know. And it started to be more popular because you know the people as like I listened when I was child is when one I don't know one person wrong person walking the street in the night and finding a big dog or whatever, but it's a not a regular dog, no, it's a you know the pit bull or whatever. No, it's a big dog like a wolf, you know, and it's scary everything. And in their history, that man say, "Hey, I have my gun." And that dog start to try to kill me, right? And I'm shooting and I'm run away. But I told you about it the very years ago with the little downtown or whatever. And the next day, you know, the people finding the man in the body there in the street with one shotgun and start to freaking out because it's who killed him. But
Hmm.
obviously they're like, hey, no, I killed the one dog, no a man. What's going on, you know?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and a lot of histories like that. Even couple men start to transform in like a big chickens or whatever other animals, you know, like coyotes or I don't know, it's different kind of animals. But it's a big one. It's irregular animals, but it's just in the night, and it's because the spirits go inside your body and start to transform and make like the animals made it, you know,
Yeah.
around the street, go to food, whatever. But it's only in the night because it's when you asleep and you start to, you know, like your body is ready for whatever
Yeah.
because your mind is in the other place, and that spirit take your body and transform and then go around and you know,
Hmm.
and
Tell them the story that you told
Yeah,
me
yeah.
about the airsoft gun and stuff.
you are a child and you if you don't see them like I say if you know how it proves
Right.
you can't believe it, right?
Yeah.
And the histories about the witch or whatever stuff. And one day, like I was 17, 18 years old, we go to the top to the hills, you know, make a crazy stuff, beers or whatever. We go to the airsoft because we want to try to shoot because my mother say, hey, no in the streets because it's, you know, dangerous, whatever. We go to one place nobody's there. Okay, we go to the hill. We go with my friends and my brothers. We stay there for a couple hours, I remember. It's like around 5 o'clock, and everybody calm down and somebody watching like black stuff over there, and everybody, turn around. I see the big dog, the black one, and I have the gun with a telescope, and I just move it for what is that, right? My friends say, "Damn, don't shoot! It's a dog! It's a dog! Come on!" I say, "No, I don't want to shoot. I just want to see for telescope because I want to see more close, right?" And when I see the close, the dog turn around and watching me, but no move. Even the dogs know when you want to fight. The dogs run or whatever, right?
Right.
But this dog is like, hey, what you doing? And I stay with the rifle watching. And my friend say, no, shoot. No, I don't want to shoot. But he started to look at me like, say, yeah, he's looking at me. Okay. And put my gun down. And the dog is like, okay, nothing happened. And he keep going, walk. But the irregular is, I see the big dog. And everybody say that big dog. And that place, you can see animals. So it's like a desert or whatever.
Mhm.
And I tell my friend, hey, you see the difference? It's a big dog. Say, no, it's a regular. No, we take that reference because he stay in the little trees with flowers, whatever. Go over there and we know what size he is. Okay, my friends go take a couple minutes to go over there, and everybody freaking out because he's the same size to my friend. And
Wow.
everybody say like,
Wow.
what? You can't believe it. It's your size. Hey, no, come on. Yes, it's your size. You can see the tree because we take the reference. I mean, friend is
Yeah.
like a dad. They say it's your size, man. Where is the dog? You can watching the dog and say, no, I'm everybody freaking out and say, hey, get out of here.
Yeah.
It's-
It's time to go.
Wow.
Now, in that time, everybody is like, you remember the Nahuales? So it's like that history now. Get out of here. And everybody go. And, we try to tell them and everybody, the family, my mother, hey, we finding out. I told you to go over there because you cannot know what to find in there. So it's crazy. Yeah. But that is very, very popular in Mexico, the Nahuales. Some
Mhm.
people, believe, and some it's like, oh, it's a history for, make a scary kids.
Yeah.
But it's even in the books and it's millenary because that one is come
Yeah.
from the culture, the pre-Hispanic stuff.
Yeah.
That one is from pre-Hispanic.
Yeah, it's just like our Native American stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It basically about the same story, really. A big old dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
With different names. Yeah.
Well, and Europe has them when you start talking about, the big black dog or the hellhounds and all that. You know what I mean? Like it's another entity that presents itself in the same basic way all around the world.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when that starts happening, you have to kind of take a look at it and say, hey, this might actually be something real because people are seeing something.
Yeah. What's going on here? Right.
Yep,
And
exactly.
Apparently, they have been seeing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Mhm, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When you told me that story, I was like, what?
Yeah.
That's a big dog.
Yes.
How big's your friend? How tall is he?
It's like 5'2", something like that. It's
Wow.
a big one. Yeah.
That's a big dog.
Yeah, big dog. In Mexico, you can find that big dogs. It's very regular. You see something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was this
Well, and
Mexican?
it's not like you have gray wolves or anything down there either, man. Like you got Mexican red wolves or coyotes and hybrids and stuff, but they're not that big, not even close.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. That's amazing.
Mhm.
So, Justin, have you researched a chupacabra?
Well, yes and no. I always keep my ear to the ground for all kinds of stuff. Chupacabras was one of the ones I got into back in the day because that came out in the 90s. And that's really when I started getting into doing research and stuff. But the chupacabras, La Chupacabras, is such a very interesting phenomenon because it started off as one thing and then it morphed into something completely different as like the culture changed a little bit and locations changed, right? So the Las Chupacabras first came out in Puerto Rico in the 90s. I want to say it was like 92 or something like that. And it was described as a reptilian creature with large red eyes, spikes running down its back, kangaroo type legs with a tail and fangs and claws. It was very reptilian.
Yes.
in nature. And some reports indicate that it may or may not have had wings. Some say it would fly, and some say they were tiny little wings that just would kind of flap a little bit when it hopped around, kind of a thing. But it mostly got around on its back legs like a kangaroo. It could lean forward on its front legs, but large red eyes and definitely scaly. This thing was a reptilian. And for the first decade of reports of Las Chupacabras, that's what they were talking about. You know, one of the most distinctive reports comes from a guy who was like a local police officer in Puerto Rico. And he was walking home one night and was attacked by one of these things.
Yeah.
You know, and yet somehow they started seeing something in the States and in Texas and all this kind of stuff. And it became the Chupacabras, but it was a dog. It was a coyote.
Yeah.
And for some reason now, when you say Las Chupacabras, that's what people think of. It is what we term the blue dog, which has been shown to be a hybrid.
Right.
And it has distinctive characteristics, almost like it's developing a new species, but it's considered a hybrid species right now. But I found it fascinating that somehow it completely morphed from one thing to another thing.
Yeah.
You know, now, whether the original Chupacabra story was a real thing, I don't know, because nowadays you don't even find reports describing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I know Lauren Coleman postulates that it came out about the same time as the movie Species did, right? And how the description of the creature is eerily similar to the aliens creatures in the movie Species.
Mm-hmm.
And so he thinks that you know, something happened, it scared the people, but in their mind, this is kind of what was created, was this alien with the big eyes and the spines and all this kind of stuff, which happens. That there's a psychological component when you're get scared and startled. You know, things can kind of morph and change in your mind, and next thing you know, it's a huge monster, right? So there's that possibility. But if I go back to my checklist, the legend of Las Chupacabras has been around for a long time, right?
Yep.
But it's not the same creature every time. It's almost like a catch-all term, you know.
Yep.
And so it's a boogeyman. It's Las Chupacabras. It's, you know, in Puerto Rico, you go outside, you gotta be careful. Las Chupacabras is gonna get you, you know.
Yeah.
Right. And so to me, that it's more of a modern folklore than it probably is a real creature, a real entity. But the blue dog, which we now call Chupacabra, now they just call it El Chupacabra, which don't even get me started on that. Right? Like Las Chupacabras is what it's supposed to be. It's a totally different thing, but it's been shown to be a real thing, so it's no longer a mystery, right? But now I've actually heard researchers go, "Oh, well, we solved what, you know, El Chupacabra was. We know what that was." I said, "No, you know what we now call a Chupacabras, but you don't. We never solved what it originally started out as,
Right.
you know." But
Yeah, that's
like,
what I
again,
always found fascinating about it too, is because I remember back when it was this, you know, greenish spiked,
Yeah.
you know, scaly lizard type creature, and then all of a sudden now it's a dog.
I never heard of it that way until now.
No?
Never.
Yeah, you do just do a quick look up, and that'll be one of the pictures that you'll get of it.
I remember the first thing I seen on a Chupacabra was this lady. I don't know. She might have been in Texas or somewhere. She had captured one or killed one.
Yeah.
And it was hairless and it looked like a coyote with no hair, really.
I think that ended up being, like Justin was talking about, I think that ended up being a hybrid with the mange, actually. I think it had mange, and that's why it was hairless. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a reptilian looking thing.
Yeah. It was.
Well, and what's interesting is I don't have the specifics, but it was either the first or one of the first major websites on the internet. Kate was at a college, and it was dedicated to the Chupacabras. Like one of the first big public websites that was out there, and one of the longest running was the original Las Chupacabras website from a call. I'm pretty sure it's now defunct. I haven't been able to find it. But it was literally one of the biggest websites put out there back in the beginning when the internet first went mainstream. And it had a huge following.
And that one is very popular or using the chupacabras in Mexico because in that time it's the stay in the elections, and everybody say take it like a distraction or make a movement for everything, politics. So give a videos or something like that for the people who start to watching only that one and not focus only this one and not in the politics stuff happen.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
That reason is a big, huge chupacabras is very famous because find it in my jar and whatever, right?
Yeah.
But no, behind that one, the government, everything is stay to make bad stuff.
What? You mean they used the media as a distraction from what was really
Yes.
going on in politics? I don't believe it. Never happened.
Mm.
I want to see if I can pull this picture that you described up. It's the first time I've even looked for it.
Yep.
Let's see.
See, right, here's one too, Jason.
Yep.
It's a lizard-like creature.
Yep.
It kind of looks like a kangaroo.
Yeah, that's an interesting description of one. But basically, I mean, if you look at what they actually spoke of a description, I mean, that sums it up. That really does.
This is kind of what it looked like right there, Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of like a slee stack and a
Yes.
lizard.
Yes.
Yeah. With fangs. With fangs.
I mean, wait a minute. I'm not old enough to know what that means.
No.
You don't remember slee stacks?
Oh, I do. I do.
I just watched the remake that movie with what's his name in it?
Will Ferrell.
Colin Farrell or Will
Colin Farrell.
Farrell?
Will
Yeah.
Ferrell.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
watched that movie the other day. Me and the wife did. It was funny as heck.
I actually just heard a podcast that had the guy that played Chaka. And
Really?
it was a Bigfoot podcast. And basically what they were talking about was, is it feasible that somebody gets into a costume like this to go out and film a 30-second film or the Patterson Gimlin film or a TikTok video?
Mhm.
And the guy was going, no. Like to get into a costume that was like this and this quality and how it works, it's so many pieces and professionals putting it on, and this piece gets glued on here, and it takes hours sitting in a chair for them to do this. He's like, they're not doing that.
Right.
He's like, there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, there's no just slipping it on and zipping it up the back and then you're off on to making a movie. No, yeah.
Those are the ones where you can tell it's obviously a suit, right? Because
Right.
it's obviously a suit. It's not even movie quality.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting take to hear this guy, talk about his experience dressing up in essentially a Bigfoot costume.
Right. Yeah.
And the work that it took. And he kept talking about how horribly hot and suffocating it was.
I bet.
Like
it was in
half
like
the
the desert scenes almost all the time, so it'd have to be hot.
Oh, it'd be miserable. Be miserable.
Yeah, that's it. That's insane.
So you do a podcast, right?
I
The
do.
Paranormal.
Paranormal Encrypted Rabbit Holes is what it's called. We just kind of had a rebranding of the YouTube channel. It used to be Grizzly is on the Hunt, because Grizzly Chris is the one that kind of facilitates several podcasts. But he rebranded it, and now it's called Bigfoot Outlaw. So if you go to the Bigfoot Outlaw YouTube channel, my particular show on there is called Paranormal Encrypted Rabbit Holes, Thursday nights live at 10. And we just kind of go over all different kinds of subjects. Sometimes we'll have guests. Sometimes you just get to hear me, talk all night. And it's anything paranormal encrypted. And we try and take a scientific view of things, but with the understanding, like I talked about before, that a lot of the stuff that we don't have the scientific knowledge to explain. And we talk about anything and everything. Like, it's one of my favorite shows. We talked about weird stuff falling from the sky, like animals. fish falls and frog falls and all this kind of stuff. And then we just cover all different types of topics and a lot of audience interaction, and we just have a good time and have fun and just kind of explore some of the crazy things in this world that go on that we just don't understand.
Yeah. I was listening to that particular podcast today and that episode.
Okay.
You know, I've always wondered where the snails went when it rained, because you used to see snails all the time.
Mhm.
I mean, were they coming from the sky or what? But nowadays, I don't see a snail anymore.
Mm-mm.
Or slugs.
Yeah, slug, snail.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny because I never really thought about that, but you're right. I haven't seen them in a while either.
Maybe they did come from the sky.
I know in that episode, I talk about 2 personal experiences I had in Upper Michigan, where one night we had a bunch of like small minnows fall during a rainstorm. And another time we had a bunch of baby toads fall. And you go out the next morning and there's literally millions of these little baby toads hopping around.
Wow.
And
I've heard
all
that.
up and down the street. I'm not talking just in a little section in my yard or something like that. I'm talking I could hop on my bike and drive down the end of the road and there was still, little baby toads all over the place.
That's insane.
Yep. And
Huh.
there's
So
no
never
real
explained?
explanation for it.
Oh.
It's never been explained. They try and say it's a weather phenomenon where, strong winds come and pick up these animals into the sky and then carries them and drops them, or a whirlwind or a tornado. But there's some problems with that. One of the main problems being it's almost always the same species. Like if the fish are falling, it's all the same kind of fish.
Huh.
It's not a mixture of fish. It's not like a cyclone or a tornado or a whirlwind went over a pond and sucked up all the pond critters.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is a lot of times there's no other debris. Right. So
So
there's
it's
not
just
sticks
animal.
and seaweed and stones falling either. It's just that particular animal. Does it happen where a tornado can pick up from a pond? Yes, it does happen, and it's been recorded. But at the same time, they're finding a variety of species. They're finding logs and moss and seaweed from the pond that gets dumped in this small area.
Right.
So yes, that does happen. I'm not going to say that never happens, but in the mysterious cases, it's all the same species of animal, or just different things like that kind of make it where it's not just going to be the wind picking something up. And I've never heard of any place that's going to have millions of baby toads all about the same size in one area that can get picked up and drop somewhere.
I want to see the wind strong enough to pick them up and then drop them somewhere altogether.
Yeah.
I want to see that wind anyway. I mean, I'm a truck driver and I go out to Wyoming all the time and I get 80+ mile an hour winds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes they're big enough to, tip over the right size truck, if it goes down through there, but it's tipping it over. It's not throwing cows or anything. I mean, it's not throwing anything at you, right? It's just the wind. I mean, and that's 80+ mile an hour winds,
Yeah. I used to live in Nebraska and we had some, chickens and a little farmstead out there. What people don't realize about Nebraska is that it is windy.
Yep.
When the seasons change, the wind is unreal. We're talking plus hurricane winds, like insane. And I have seen my chickens blow across the yard because of the wind gusts coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't get launched up into the air and travel 20 miles and then dropped on somebody's house.
Right.
It just, like you said, it doesn't work that way.
It just don't. Yeah, there's just no way.
Yeah.
That's insane. But that's
Mhm.
intriguing though,
Yeah.
What could cause that? Huh.
Yep, and there's theories, there's all kinds of stuff, but again, nobody really knows, but it's a real phenomenon. I found reports dating way back in history, all across the world. There's a country in South America, I forget particularly which one it is, Uruguay or something along there, where they have an annual fish fall. and they can time it. They know what week it's going to happen, and they have a festival every year for this rainfall.
Really?
For the fish. Yes, absolutely. I blew my mind when I first saw that. I'm like, you're kidding.
Now, is it a fish that they eat? Because it'd be like,
they gather it and eat it.
Season. Yeah, fish fry.
It's an ocean fish. It's another one where they think it has to do with the weather phenomenon. Like there's a school of fish, and a whirlwind comes over the water and sucks it up, and brings it over and drops it. But it's like every year, within the same week frame, it happens that they and the festival's been going on for like 50 or 60 years. And that's how regular it is.
Wow.
Absolutely wild.
Free, all you can eat fish on Friday.
It must be a gift from above.
Yeah. The aliens really like them.
Yeah.
I see John is asking about Mary and Janice.
Yes. Yeah, I've never heard of that or the book. I'm gonna have to read that book.
So he says, have you all heard of the lady in Monroe County that co-wrote a book with Mary Green, the Tennessee Bigfoot lady named Janice Carter? The book was called 50 Years with Bigfoot. Yeah, I know Janice Carter. I've met her, talked to her in person. Real sweet lady. So yeah, I know her. I know her story very well, and it's definitely a fascinating story. Her story is a habituation story.
Okay.
Where she was raised out on a farm in Tennessee, and Bigfoot visited her grandfather and kept visiting her, and the family grew up with her, and that kind of a story.
Wow.
If you ever seen the picture online of a lady standing in the doorway of her house, it's a painting. She's standing in the doorway of her house in a nightgown, and there's a Bigfoot there, and she's handing something to the Bigfoot. I don't know if you've ever seen that picture going around on Facebook memes or anything. But that's a painting of Janice Carter interacting with one of the Bigfoots in the clan that was on her farm.
That's interesting.
That's very interesting because we have the guy that has been on the show a couple of times that has them on his property.
Like that.
Yeah, on his property.
Yep.
You may know him,
Stacy Hazlitt.
Stacy Hazlitt. He comes to the
Bigfoot
conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met Stacy at the Gatlinburg conference a couple of years ago.
Yep. And he's been on the show a couple of times. Interesting story.
Yeah. There's another guy down there on the Nolichucky. A fella by the name of Chris Gray. He just passed. May he rest in peace. Really nice fella. Same kind of a story where his grandpa had land along that way, and he tells a story of when he woke up one night and was heard some talking. And he didn't understand what was going on because it was just his grandpa. And he looks out, and his grandpa's on the back porch talking with a Bigfoot, and handed him some stuff, like some herbs or garlic or something like that. And he said, I know it sounds crazy. He's like, but I saw it. And, Grandpa just told me, yeah, they're around. We don't talk about it. Sometimes they come to me for help.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It kind of goes along with some of the stories that I've read and stuff with the natives, right? Where they said that at one point they used to trade with the Bigfoot and stuff all the time until the Europeans came over. And the Bigfoot pretty much, this is from the story, but gave them the ultimatum, right? You either trade with the Europeans or you trade with us. If you trade with them, we're going to go away. And we're not going to trade with you any longer. And then that's what happened, right? They started trading with the Europeans, and then Bigfoot decided to move off and stop dealing with the natives. And I always found that pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
I think it's really fascinating, especially when you look at how things turned out, for the natives.
Yeah.
And I'm not to get political with it, but I'm talking about the trading that they did. What was very one-sided as far as value of stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And then and this is documented stuff. The use of infected blankets to try and do population control.
Oh yeah.
I know there's some people out there that believe the Bigfoot population was a lot higher back in those days, but they ended up catching the same diseases from the blankets and from the white man, and decimated the population.
Right. Makes
And
sense.
then so and then that's what happened. And the reason it appears we're having more reports and more interactions, and why we're starting to see Bigfoot reports and uh around the edges of cities and urban populations and stuff, is because the population has started growing again. And just like with bears and other stuff, that they're going to start creeping into the edges of our big cities and stuff like that, to dumpster dive and do stuff like that, just out of necessity.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing. And I think that's a very feasible idea. I mean, obviously we can't prove it one way or the other, but it
Right.
makes sense. It makes sense when you tie it in with like you said, the story from the Native Americans talking about how they used to trade with them and then had culture with them, and then they stopped. I mean, it does fit. Those pieces that kind of fit together.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does make sense too. I mean, you know, when you don't hardly see them, right? Everybody's like, oh, you don't see a dead body or anything. Well, how many dead bears do you see? And we know we got tons of them, right?
Right.
But when it comes down to it, you would think that over time that they would start bouncing back and actually start gaining those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense, like what you just said, of maybe that's why you're starting to see more reports come in and more sightings and things like that, is because they are actually building their numbers back again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're getting reports of people seeing them in dumpsters and alleys. And down here in Florida, where I'm at right now, there's reports of sheriff department just kind of cruising around and checking out stores and this like that, and he ran into one that was digging in the trash can.
Wow.
There was a famous case. I don't know about famous because maybe not everybody knows about it, but a case that I heard about, and I believe it was part of the Olympic project when they were gathering DNA samples and all that, where there was one that kept coming to the dumpsters behind a casino, and they kept catching it on security cameras. And they got a DNA sample because it was crossing a barbed wire fence, and it got caught on the barbed wire fence, and they were able to get some hair with some flesh attached to it. And they were able to corroborate with the video over that same fence line. So they literally had visual evidence of that creature going over that fence where they found the hair. And so they kind of used that to establish some credibility with it. The reports are out there. They really are. If we could just, that's my biggest complaint in the Bigfoot community, is everybody wants to be the one that makes the discovery. They want to be the famous one. So nobody wants to really collaborate with the real evidence.
Yes.
Everybody will tell you some stories they've collected,
Yeah.
but they're not going to come in and give you the real evidence or show you some of the real photographs that they have,
Right.
Because everybody wants to be the one. And I think that that's such a huge disservice to the research community as a whole.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because there's so much information that's out there. It's just, it's so many different pieces and in so many different areas, and nobody wants to kind of share and put them together.
I think that's also a possibility of why it's got stagnant over all the years too, right? No one
I agree.
wants to see information,
Yep. And I struggle in the Bigfoot world. I'm not going to lie, because exactly what you just said, it stagnates.
Yes.
Where's the new information? Everybody's talking about the same information. Everybody's going out and getting the same pictures. They're all getting tree structures. We're all getting footprints. Okay. This is established.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking pictures, but what research are you doing? What are you analyzing? Right. Because research isn't just walking through the woods and taking pictures, right? Research is, I found a structure. Okay, well, let me take some measurements. Let me grab my ruler and let me analyze what kind of wood is actually used. Can I name the different species of wood? Can I tell where they come from? Research is research. Give me some diameters. Give me how big the capacity is inside. You're telling me this thing is like a house or a blind. How much room is inside it? What's the inner dimensions, right? do some research, because without that kind of data, then you don't have anything. You have a picture.
Yep.
You know, and I feel the same way about the pictures that are inundating Facebook right now, which is they're even worse than the old blob squatches. Nowadays, and I did a whole episode on this. I went through a walk, the Red Circle Brigade.
Yeah, it's right there.
I did a whole episode on this. I went through a walk through here on in Florida, and I just started taking pictures around me. And it was a 2.5 mile walking trail, which about killed me. Took me about 4 hours to walk the whole thing. I just took some random pictures and I just blew them up and looked, and I found Bigfoot in every picture.
Yeah. Pareidolia works well.
But I knew there wasn't Bigfoot in the pictures.
Yeah.
Right. But I was able to find one in every picture.
Yeah.
And yet people insist on using this type of stuff as evidence. And it's like, you can't. That's not evidence of anything. You know, I think it's become more of just a fan base thing. And the some of the researchers calling themselves researchers aren't researchers. They have a story or two. Yeah, they go out in the woods and they knock on stuff, but that's not research. What are you researching?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
what does a knock really mean?
Right. But you're not researching that. All you're trying to do is catch some evidence on TV. So you're the next guy that gets put on a TV show or on a podcast or gets invited to a conference.
Right.
You know,
what do you think about Todd Standing's work?
Oh man, you had to bring that up. Okay.
Yes, I did. Come on, we're talking about this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's been on the tip of my tongue for a little bit.
This is where I'm at with Todd Standing. I don't think anybody has given conclusive evidence that he hoaxed anything.
Well, you know, Survivor Man says the same thing. He went out with him.
Yeah.
He says the exact same thing. He says, look, this guy actually does the work. He goes out 20 miles into the forest and stuff. I mean, you know, where everybody else wants to go on walking trails.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. And could he have hoaxed what he did? Possibly. Sure. He could have. Right. But at the very same instance, could it all be real? Yes, it could be. Right. And a while back, years back, somebody did this whole breakdown of Todd Standing and analyzed his pictures and analyzed his videos and did this and did that. And there was some compelling thoughts in that breakdown. But to me, it wasn't conclusive. They did not prove anything, you know.
Right.
One of the big things is take the one picture of Blackie and phase it over into the face of Todd Standing.
God, Todd Standing, yes.
Right? And people are like, oh, look, that's proof. And I'm like, wait a minute. I saw Michael Jackson do that in a video.
Yeah.
A couple years before that, you know?
Right.
So that's being able to phase from one face to another is not evidence of anything.
No, nothing.
You know? So my thing with Todd Standing is if what he has is real, it's phenomenal work.
Yeah, it's the smoking gun.
If he's hoaxing it, it's phenomenal work.
Yeah. Either way,
you
he's
know?
good. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, and like you said with Les Stroud, talk about huge credibility in the field right there.
Yes.
You know, I watched the entire season multiple times of his Bigfoot season.
Yeah. And his commentations of it too afterwards.
That's what I like is the breakdown.
Yeah.
I've been a huge Les Stroud fan from the beginning before he even got into Bigfoot. When he got into Bigfoot, I was like a little girl. I was all excited and jumping up and down, you know. But what I liked about him is he makes legit points as a researcher.
Yes.
You know, he's skeptical about everything. He's not jumping to, oh, this is Bigfoot, this is Bigfoot, this is Bigfoot. He's going, well, it could be this, it could be that. And then he's going, there's no way this could be anything else than what it was. I don't understand. That's research.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
I like the video of the apple disappearing off the tree.
Yes.
That was when they were up there all alone on top of that mountain.
Yes.
And they had it. And if you listen to that commentary,
yeah,
I thought that was very telling because he's on there saying Todd literally said, you can't show this because they're going to come after me.
Well, and what's funny too is that after Todd left, he stayed there for a night by himself.
Yep.
He put another apple in the tree and some bars, some chocolate bars in the tree. This time he made sure the camera didn't get knocked over.
Yep.
And you see something that's really tall, but you don't know what it is because you can't really see it.
Yep.
But it grabs the apple and then the apple's gone.
Yep. Just disappears.
And Les Stroud's sitting there like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell you.
Yep.
But something literally grabbed that out of a tree. He goes, it wasn't any other little furry creature, and a bear can't reach up there and grab it. So you make up your own mind, is what he said. And I'm like, I love it. It's awesome.
And another thing they talk about with Todd Standing is it depends on which report you read, but it's either his wife or his sister. They call her a makeup artist, right? She's a makeup artist. So she just makes all these, makes the mask that he wears. And we discussed that earlier, the complications and expense of putting on a Bigfoot costume and making a mask, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I looked into this several years ago. So I can't cite you a source, but when I looked into it, what I discovered is what they're calling a makeup artist is equivalent to the lady that works at the department store that gives you the free makeup lessons to get you to buy makeup from her.
Right.
Right. She's like the lady at Ulta or Avon or one of those places.
Yeah.
Like that's the makeup artist, right?
When you walk into Sears, the people at the counter.
Yeah. Here, let me put this eyeshadow. Oh, this looks so good on you. You should buy it for $500 a tube,
You're good in blue.
And what I find really interesting about this, and I'm not throwing shade on anybody. I got to meet Cliff Barackman at Lexington last year.
Yeah.
And I got to sit down to talk with him and his wife, Melissa. Now, very cool people. Yeah. They were both great. Cliff was wary at first. Obviously, I get it. He's a big personality in the world, and he gets probably a ton of strange people coming up and talking to him, like me. But once he kind of got into it, and he knew I was familiar with some of the other people and hanging out with them, and then he kind of loosened up. But Melissa was great. She was talking to me, and we had a good time. Melissa herself, she makes movie props. That's what she does. She is literally in the movie industry and makes props and does movie makeup and all this kind of stuff, which is fantastic. It's awesome. But not once have I ever heard anybody say anything on her.
Yeah.
Or Cliff because of it, right? And they shouldn't. There's no reason to.
Does he use her in his Bigfoot museum? I wonder. To make props.
I know she helps him with them. I don't know what capacity.
Right.
But I just find it weird how they'll hone in on this because they already don't like Todd.
Right.
He's a strong personality. He tried to make money off of his videos at one point, which I can't blame him, honestly.
If I'm not mistaken, and I may be, but if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he successful though with those videos and those pictures and all that stuff for getting the creature put on an endangered species list in Canada? Or in
he tried to. I don't know if it ever officially happened through him or not. Right. But I know that was one of his big projects, was trying to get it pushed as a endangered species or listed somehow to protect it, a protected species. And I know he kind of worked with the late Claudia Ackley when she was out in California to try and push a similar bill through that didn't go through. And I think it's a good idea. I personally think the laws already do protect them, because if you know anything about hunting laws, it's not a matter of if there's not a law, it's open game. Nope. It's a matter of if there's not a season, then it's not open game no matter what it is, right? So it's not an exclusionary law, it's an inclusionary law. And so they're already protected. If somebody shoots one, you're going to get in trouble for it either way. You can't say, well, there's no law against it.
Or something, like with a bear or something, you can shoot one if it was after you, but
well, it's like the South Park episode, right?
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's coming right for us.
South Park. That's awesome. No, I was thinking of Todd Standing, especially because this last week on the road, I watched probably almost every one of those episodes of Survivor Man,
Okay,
Bigfoot,
yeah.
and he was with Todd twice, I think it was, during
Yep.
those episodes, and so I was like, I don't know, I think he's pretty credible. I think he's got just as much evidence for it as anybody else does. And if you can't, disprove it, that's not proof of it
Right.
not being real,
Right.
So
And like I said, if somebody had come out and proven that this was a hoax, then I'd be right there going with you saying he's not credible. He's a known hoaxer.
right.
But I don't feel anybody has sufficiently proven that. And just saying it's too good of a picture or it doesn't look real or this or that is not.
Isn't
You
that
can
an
disagree with
oxymoron?
it.
Though? Isn't that an oxymoron?
Yeah.
Everybody wants that perfect picture. But then if someone gets it, aka Todd, if they, like we said, if they are real, and then all of a sudden now you're a hoaxer because you got the perfect picture.
Right.
I've
said for a long time now, in this day and age, a picture or video is not going to work anymore.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you're right.
It's not.
Yeah. And DNA doesn't either. They've had how many DNA studies have been done, right?
Well, that's because people don't understand how DNA works.
No, they don't.
You have to have a type specimen to tell what it is.
Well, and
you have to. Unknown DNA, you can't classify. You can say, sure, it's got some primate markers.
Right.
But
exactly.
we're supposedly 97% the same DNA as a chimp.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. And so without having it, just like a hair test, the way you confirm that a hair is from a bear is you take a known sample from a bear and you compare it side to side to the unknown sample. And then you look at the identifying markers.
Yep.
That's the only way to scientifically confirm what a hair is from or a DNA. But again, you have to take the DNA sample and run it by a known type specimen DNA.
Well, and then
that's why I go ahead.
From what I was listening to someone just talking about this the other day too. It's not only about having the DNA, but it's also when you're doing the testing on the DNA, asking the right questions for each test,
right,
to make sure that they come up right. And if you're not asking the right questions, you're never going to get the right answer.
Exactly. Because to basically break down the DNA to its readable components, you have to add specific chemicals and specific marker material. I don't know the technical words. I'm not a geneticist.
Right.
But they have specific ones for specific types of animals.
Yes.
Right. To make sure they get clear and positive results. It's, we've got this stigma that is kind of like this know-all, be-all information, too much CSI and too much Bones and then, too much Criminal Minds and all this stuff has kind of warped the common man's thinking on how this stuff works,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I actually, the other day that I kind of got on this bug and I started Googling to find out, okay, if I found a hair sample, how much would it cost for me to have it analyzed? Where would I send it to and how much would it cost? And I couldn't find an answer.
Right. Yeah.
I
know where you can now. I know where you can now. As far as last Bigfoot conference, if you remember, Jason, that was part of the Bigfoot conference.
Oh yeah.
They've got that place in North Carolina now that is doing testing for Bigfoot, specifically for Bigfoot. Yeah.
Yep. I remember that was, who was that last year that announced that?
It was,
I forgot.
Who was it that was, it was someone with the BFRO.
Yeah.
I think it was Matt Moneymaker.
Yeah.
I think it was Matt Moneymaker. If I'm not mistaken, he's
because that was the one I didn't go to. I wasn't able to get to that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they announced that.
Yeah,
But I was
most
thinking
states
as a private person, if I'm down here in Florida and I find, a barbed wire fence that's got a hunk of hair on it and I want to get it analyzed, like, because it used to cost thousands and thousands of dollars to the point where it was not feasible,
yes,
you know. I don't know if it still is that for the kind of testing, because what I found is all depends on the kind of testing you're trying to do
right.
is what the cost factor is, So,
Well, I know that a lot of the stuff that's been done in the past too has come up unknown. It's come up unknown primate, but it's also come up as human DNA. And then they're
sure.
always saying that, oh, it's contaminated. It's contaminated. But if you take it and you look at it objectively, and you get tons of these samples from tons of different places and tons of different people, it's not the same sample being sent to all these different places, and they all have the
Yep.
same anomaly, right? Human and unknown primate. Then you
Right.
can't no longer say that every one of these were contaminated.
Well, yes, but you can still cast doubt on it, because unless it's collected in a very specific way,
But most of
and the
them,
chain of custody, right? And nowadays we're getting more and more of people that know how and are trained on how to collect proper evidence,
Mhm.
right?
yes,
Um,
and
but
contain it too to send it off, so it doesn't
right,
degrade.
right, exactly. I mean, they're learning because this is such a serious thing, and it's an important part of the research. But again, all that we can really say with all that DNA is, okay, we have something that doesn't match what we have in our database.
Exactly.
That is literally the extent of what can be said.
Mm.
Yes,
And
it's showing these
that is
markers. Yes, it's
evidence,
showing these markers.
right?
And
It's still
again,
evidence.
it's evidence of something unknown. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's not it's not going to be the smoking gun until we have something to compare it to.
We won't have a smoking gun until we have a
No.
body.
Right. And
Unfortunately,
another
that's
problem that I'm hearing is I've talked to several different private people and groups that have had DNA testing done,
Mhm.
and they're all getting different results.
Huh.
So is that a case of, like we talked about, what kind of chemicals and testing are they using for the testing
Yeah.
that's producing different results?
Hmm.
Is it, and that, again, that's part of the problem when it comes to genetic testing.
Yeah.
Different labs, different techniques, this and that, right? I know if you take a paternity test,
Yeah.
okay,
I've taken one.
they say if you
I was the father.
if the paternity test says 99.9%, then they consider you the father, even if it's not 100%.
Yep. What the judge
Which
said,
means
99.999%, Mr. Reagan, you are the father.
if it shows 98%, then
Yeah.
there's a reasonable doubt that they're not going to say you're conclusively the father.
Right.
Right. So even if it's 98% sure in a court of law, or if we're talking scientifically speaking, there's still that doubt. And because it's something like Bigfoot, people are going to take that doubt and
Mhm.
run with it
Of
and
course. Of course.
say it's not conclusive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the Melba Ketchum study. I think that was a great idea. I think there was some errors not in the testing, but in how things were conducted.
Mhm.
What I would like to see is more DNA studies like that, like the one the Matt Moneymaker's talking about doing.
Yes.
Because science, for something to be science, it has to be observable, but the key thing is repeatable.
Yes.
Repeatable, right? So we need to have multiple studies that are considered proper studies to show the same results. Once we can start getting multiple studies in with the same results, then we can start really going, hey, we have something here.
Yeah.
You know, because what if Moneymaker and the university does the study and they come up with unknown primate, but they don't have any trace of a human female mitochondrial DNA?
Right.
Well, then we have to look at it and go, which study is right and which study is wrong.
Right.
They can't both be right at that point. You know
Right.
what I mean? So We need to have the multiple studies repeating with the same results before we can actually conclusively look at it as good scientific evidence.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And that's when people say we need evidence to convince the scientists, that's what they're talking about.
Right.
You know, just inconclusive unknown DNA is not enough to work with. It's not scientifically speaking.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's just taking an unknown and saying, "Yep, it's unknown." So what is
Yeah,
it?
that's all you can. We can speculate from
Yeah.
there, absolutely, right? But speculation doesn't hold up to scientific scrutiny that way.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's not testable or repeatable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, looks like we're about out of time. Actually, we're a
It
little
always
bit.
goes by fast.
I know.
Always
I
goes
was
by
like,
fast when I'm talking with you guys.
I thought we just started. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? I didn't think.
Isn't it time for our first break?
That's it. Yeah. What happened to our 3-hour shows we used to do? Remember those, Jason?
Yeah, they
Back in
got
the day.
crazy though.
Back in the day, we used to do 3-hour shows.
If you want to go ahead, Justin, and tell your info again. And
Sure.
Yes.
Best way to find me is just on Facebook, just under my name, Justin Decker. Look for the guy with the bandana. I asked if you can send me a friend request first, because if you don't show some mutual acquaintances, I may not accept you as a friend. But if you shoot me a message through there and just say, "Hey, I heard you on the show," I'll accept you and we can talk there. That's the best way. Again, the podcast, Paranormal and Cryptid Rabbit Holes, under Bigfoot Outlaw on YouTube. That's with Grizzly Chris. He has lots of different shows on lots of different topics. So if you're into the subjects here on Paranormal 411, come check out our slew of shows that we have. We always enjoy. And just reach out to me if you have something to say, or you want to just have a conversation, or you have some ideas. I'm always open, always willing to talk to somebody and just have a good conversation.
Yeah. Justin's good people.
oh yeah,
I try.
He can cook pretty good too.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
I remember up there at we was at that Bigfoot festival, and where was we at? The woman that was big outside, and he was in a food truck.
I don't remember that one because we went there to see.
It was a seafood truck,
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah. Yep.
We went there to see Matt Sieber, but then Matt Sieber didn't go.
Right.
He canceled out on it. That was an interesting. Oh man, I could tell you so much about that whole debacle. I was actually originally, when they were first putting that together, I was going to speak at it. But then getting to know the people a little more and seeing what was happening with it, I respectfully declined.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did at that point, because it was a show, but we sold a lot of good seafood.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. They tried to put on another one.
Good.
They tried to put on another one, but it didn't quite go over. So
yeah. They had split with the people that were assisting putting on the other one, because I guess there was a lot of conflict there, and that's what kind of resulted in the confusion of the conference that was put on. And they tried to make it a go of it, but it just didn't take off.
Yeah. No.
So
didn't do no good. I just didn't like that they had all the Bigfoot speakers and stuff in a little bitty tent way in the back 40, when they had a nice stage and everything, and then that's just where they had bands playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding
that's
me?
kind of what happened. It started off as a Bigfoot con.
Yeah.
And it blew up into being a concert that had some Bigfoot speakers there.
Yeah.
I think we left there after about an hour, maybe.
Yeah.
And went to Crypticon.
Yeah. Yeah. We went to Crypticon. Yeah.
Nice.
So, if you want to listen to yourself on the radio next weekend, it'll be on WDJY. FM.com or 99.1.
Saturday and Sunday
at 8 p.m.
It'll be on both days.
You guys are blowing up, dude. I'm so excited for you guys. And then I heard you're on TV now. You said out in California.
Yes, sir.
Is fantastic, man. I'm so happy for you guys. I remember the last time I was on, at the last minute, you were like, "Oh yeah, by the way,
Yeah.
This is going to be our first show ever on the radio.
Yes.
And I was just kind of like, what? Like, no pressure at all, guys. Thanks. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So are you going to be at the Townsend this year? And
No,
Gatlinburg?
I'm in Florida right now just due to some health reasons and stuff, and I don't have an estimated time when I'm going to be back up in the Tennessee area. Things are just kind of up in the air right now. I'm kind of laying low this year. I didn't book any conferences to speak at or anything like that. Just kind of waiting to see how things pan out for me with my health and everything like that. So I'm just kind of laying low, doing the podcast, and that's about it. But hopefully, I will get back up that way here within the next couple of months. And then once things settle down, maybe this fall, I can kind of get back in to doing some stuff. But right now I'm just kind of laying low on everything.
Well, get to feeling better.
Yeah.
That's the plan. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being a
My
part of
pleasure.
this. And thanks for being a friend, actually.
Yeah.
Hey,
that
anytime. I love
Yeah.
chatting with you guys. You guys are both good guys, and I love watching the chicken stories.
Yeah, we just got had 7 babies hatch out. The mama's out there taking care of 7 babies now.
I've actually talked him into it. We ain't done it yet, but we're going to get a chicken cam.
Yeah, there's a chicken cam. We have
There you go.
In there now, so we're just got to figure out how to get the feed so we could show chicken cam on the show. You know, here's chicken.
That'd be awesome.
I'll send you the link to the radio.
Okay.
thing.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, Justin.
That'd be
We
great.
appreciate it.
Hey, not a problem. Anytime, guys. Anytime.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You have
All
a good night. Have a
Good
good
night.
weekend.
You too. You too.
Justin Decker.
Justin Decker and Mr. Christian. What's yours again?
It's a Ravens production.
Oh yeah.
Facebook, you can find it as only Ravens Pro, but it's more easy for Instagram. You can find it like a Ravens production.
Ravens Production.
Ravens Productions.
Yes.
Great work.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Look, this is one of our shirts that they make right here.
Hell yeah.
Look at that. They do excellent work. Excellent work. So
Remember, what we're remembering. Yeah, we're going to the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival. We're going to be there set up, doing interviews,
doing a live show.
Woo! And it's May the 4th. May the 4th.
Yeah.
Then we will be at
The Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference.
the conference in Gatlinburg.
Yep.
I can't remember the date.
It's July, isn't it? It's close to the 20th somewhere.
Yeah, Christian will be at both of those too with his
Oh yeah.
Ravens Productions.
Ravens Productions.
New designs.
Yeah.
We hope everybody enjoyed listening to the show tonight.
Yeah, it was a good show. I like talking to Justin.
Oh yeah.
Good people.
Justin is very smart too when it comes to cryptids.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You can tell he's done a lot of research.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes out.
July 27th.
July 27th.
Yes.
July
Oh,
27th in
yeah.
Gatlinburg.
Remember, who do we have on next week?
Next week we have Lyle Blackburn.
Lyle Blackbird's on, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Oh man. It's gonna
When
be
we
a great
talking
show.
Bigfoot again or cryptids, whatever. The Boggy Creek
Yeah,
monster.
right there. Beast of Boggy Creek.
The Beast of Boggy Creek.
Yeah. So, remember, we are live on Spreaker, Podbean, X, also on paranormal411.org, Facebook, and YouTube. We have a book out. You can find us, East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore. It's on Amazon. And you could also find us at Paranormal411 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And on Saturday nights and Sunday nights, 10 to 11, we're on WDJY FM. If you're in the metro Atlanta area, that's 99.1 FM. And if you're not, that's all right. You can still listen to us. It's wdjyfm.com, or you can go to paranormal411.org, click the link, and listen to us.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We're also on Subspace Radio on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Join us.
Join us.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Have a good night.